And hello again, and today I'm going to continue with the work I started in the last video to try and repair one of these idiot lights for my Ducati MHR. Now these things are sealed, they're not supposed to be repaired, and yet it's broken, and it turns out you just can't get replacements, so it's going to have to be repaired in some way or other. Now at this point I must thank one of the commenters in that last video who told me he'd had exactly the same problem and he had a fix in mind and told me how he did it. And so I'm actually following that instruction or that guide, and I'm trying to do the same thing. So the first phase is to order and buy some new LED lights rather than using the old-fashioned lights that this thing had in it originally. And I've done that, so here they are. I didn't quite know whether to go for 5mm or 3mm wide LED diodes, but he said no, you need to go for 3mm because the 5mm is going to be too big and too bright and too hot to go in one of these things. And so that's what I've done. I've got here I think about 20 of them or 10 of them, I can't remember now. And oh, there's the dog. And yeah, they weren't too expensive, about I think £7 for 10, so that's not too bad, including delivery. So they arrived today, and let me zoom in on that and we can see what they look like. And now I've got a bit closer, you can see what I've got here are 3mm white 12 volt LED diodes. I think there's a pack of 10 there, it costs about £7 plus, or rather including P&P from Amazon Prime. And yeah, so pretty simple stuff. It's actually very, very bright. I've tried it out already, just with some power, and it's amazingly bright, much brighter than the original. And talking of the original, here it is here, little bulb, and sure enough, there it is there, look. The very fine wires that hold it in place were broken, and that's why it didn't work. Anyway, the next phase then is to work out how to mount that in the new idiot light block. And so here we have an intact idiot light block, and as you can see it's made up out of two parts. You've got the outer cover, the coloured perspex cover, and also this white base, and they're pretty damn tight together, they won't pull out. So to get them apart, what I did was I started off with a very sharp knife, a scalpel in fact, and actually managed not to cut myself for a change, and I very carefully scribed down this gap here over and over again all the way around until I could get my scalpel up underneath this gap. And once I could do that, I could move it around very slowly, gradually, and separate things apart. Now I have to be so careful because this is quite sort of fragile and I didn't want to break it. But with a bit of time, a bit of effort, after about half an hour or so, I did manage to separate the two parts. So let's move that one out of the way, and what we see is this outer cover here, look, pretty straightforward, and the white block behind. So once I've got that separated, the next step is to drill a hole in the base to take one of these LEDs, which obviously you've already done. Now these are 3mm LEDs, but the base is actually a little bit wider. You can see there, hopefully you can tell, I'm not sure, but yeah, they might be 3mm at the top, but they're actually a bit wider at the base. So I tried first of all drilling a 3mm hole, and that wasn't quite big enough. Went to 4, not quite big enough, and finally to 4.5mm, and that was enough to allow me to pass these wires through the base. And as luck would have it, when you push it through, the top of the LED is just level with the top of this block. And then to stop it from moving around, I dripped a little bit of glue on there. I used super glue, this stuff here, stuff called Q-Bond. It's actually very powerful. I managed to get some on my finger, not a good idea because it's still on there now. Yes, that's now set. Now the next step is to obviously wire up the LED, and the question is how do you do that? Hang on, there you go, look, it's there. And the suggestion from the commenter was that he cut these wires very short and then wrapped them around the base of these two spades here, and then soldered them in place, and then just plugged it all back in again, and he was good to go. And I might still do that, but I'm just wondering, maybe it might be easier for me just to ignore these spades and attach a new spade connector on the ends of these and connect them in turn to the remaining wiring harness. I'm not sure yet. The reason I do that is because these have shrouds on them there, look, they've got some shrink wrap and they're quite inflexible. I don't want to risk sort of bending them and breaking the wires off. Actually, you can't see that, can you? Just a minute. Yeah, I don't want to risk breaking these wires. They're quite delicate. So if I now bend this back and then wrap it round there, if I keep going there, look, you know, there's a sort of limit as to how far you can take that before you're really kind of forcing the wire a bit too much. So while I'm sort of following my commenter's advice, so far so good, I think what I might do is just cut these off now and attach a couple of spade connectors to these and completely ignore these two. May not be perfect, but we'll see how I go on with that. Okay, so I've now attached these rather crude spade terminals. Not very neat, but it's all I've got. So that's what I've used. And quick test now, I've got some power here on these leads. Let's see if it lights up. Yeah, there it is, look. That's not bad, is it? And quite bright for such a small lamp. Okay, so that's good. And next thing to do is to reattach this green cover. I can't just put it on and leave it on there because I think it'll fall off. So let me just unplug that, make it safe. There we go. And yeah, so it does have little grips on the inside, so it might just stay there, who knows. But I suspect it'll need a bit of help. Yeah. So that's how it should be. Let's say, oh, it's not bad actually, it's not bad. Oh, it's not too bad actually, yeah, it's not, that seems to be staying where it needs to be. Obviously you've got to be careful because of the vibration from the bike. I might just put a little dab of glue on the outside, just a small little dab, just to make sure this thing stays where it should be. But before I put it back on the bike, let's just do one more check again. And black to black, red to red. I believe these LEDs are actually, will only work with the power going one way, so hopefully I'll get that right when I reattach it to the bike. Here we go, look, there we go. I must say that is an awful lot brighter than it would have been with the old original lamp. So yeah, it's pretty good. Since I've got the power here, I've got the new battery for the bike, so I can try all these other idiot lights first before it goes back on the bike. I did check it a while ago to make sure I had some sort of resistance in there, but I didn't actually check that that was working or not. Oh, and also of course I've got this one here, the stand, and it turns out that's completely empty because guess what, my bike doesn't have a side stand, so that is completely useless. It doesn't do anything at all. But what I'm going to want to do now is just check the rest of these things. And last of all, what we've got here is the gen. Let's have a look. Oh no, gen is also not working. Oh, I'm glad to check that because obviously I wouldn't want to put it all back on the bike. Oh well, at least it means I can show you the process of trying to separate these two parts of the idiot light. This one appears to be putting up a bit more of a fight than the last one. What I'm doing is using a scalpel craft tool just to slowly try and separate this edge here. Oh, I reckon we go. I did that all the way around, and then I'm attempting to use the knife to get underneath this and sort of lift it off ever so slightly. This is where you'll see me cut my bloody finger off, but it's very sharp. But at the moment it's not happening. It's just not happening. It's not as easy as the last one was, and I'm not quite sure why. Perhaps there's a bit more glue in there. Also, I think this has been burned. You see it here? I'm not sure if you can tell from the light, but it's like a I don't know, melted piece of plastic here, right where the bulb would be. So maybe the bulb got very hot and melted this plastic against the inner block. I don't know, but anyway, that's not coming off at all. I've been on it for about 5 minutes and not made any progress yet. So what I've done is I've gone and grabbed this small serrated knife from the kitchen, and what I'm trying to do is just grind away some of that white plastic block. Make sure that's still in focus yet, and that should allow me then to get in underneath the red Perspex cover and get the scalpel underneath there to sort of lift it off. I'm not sure it's going to work, but it'll be a lot quicker than trying to use that scalpel for hours and hours and hours. Okay, now I'm getting pretty close. I can get the blade all the way on this side, so that must be pretty damn loose now. And On this side though, I've got a problem. This outer plastic cover is melted to the inside block here. You see it's been melted there. Hang on, I don't think you can see that. But right there. And sure enough, although I can get, let me just tighten this up a little bit. Although I can get my blade in there all the way through both sides, when I get to here, this central part, it just doesn't want to know. It's obviously melted really tightly together. I guess the bulb gave up the ghost and got very hot and melted it. You can see that now, I'm really pushing hard there and it's not separating at all. So I'm not sure what to do about that. I haven't managed to crack this outer perspex cover, which I don't want to do. I'll turn it around here. You probably can't tell, but it's got a crack now running along there. So I suspect to get this thing apart, I'm going to have to break this side of the cover, but needs must, because it ain't coming off otherwise. And at last I've done it. I managed to crack this plate here, but it's just pulling apart now, look. Make sure that's in, and let's see what's inside. There's the broken, I assume broken, which doesn't look too bad actually. The wires are still intact at the base there. Then we break off, I'm told. But I suspect this thing's not working anymore. So next then, I need to drill a 4.5mm hole in the base. I'll do it by hand with my hand drill, straight through there, which will then allow one of these LEDs to go through. And that's what's next. Okay, so there's the hole I've just drilled. It's 4.5mm. Just did that by hand, it's quite easy to do. Very thin plastic, so it doesn't take long. And I've got it pretty much centered. So now I'm going to take one of these LEDs and push it through like that. As I say, if you look at this carefully, you can see that although it's only 3mm at the top, the base is actually about 4.5 or 5mm, because it's a lot wider with the two wires coming out of it. So that's why I went to 4.5mm. So see now it's so stuck now, it won't go anymore. But that's okay because it's almost where it needs to be. A little bit more of a push, it's nice and firm. And yeah, so that's kind of how it should be. Just at the top there, no higher. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of glue again on the base there, just to run some super glue in there and hold it all nice and tight before I put it back together again. And also, of course, I'm going to put a bit more glue as well on this broken outer cover. It's got a bit crack in it there, so yeah, that needs to be fixed as well. Doesn't really matter, it'll still work if I'd left it as is, but I think I'll just put some glue on there just to be on the safe side. And now here we are the next day, and everything's finished. The glue's dried off, so everything's back in its place and ready to go back on the bike. Now I can't say I'm too pleased about using these rather crude connectors here, these male connectors, but I had to use them because they're the only ones I've got that match the female connectors on the harness. I would have liked to use something like the ones in here, smaller, with a nice cover. I've got some other ones here, look, or even some more, or some more, or some more. So as I say, I do have quite a selection there, but unfortunately, as I say, all these don't fit the female connectors on the bike, and I didn't want to start changing the standard harness at the moment, just in case I want to put it back to standard at some point, if maybe one day I can find an original working version of these lights. So anyway, that done, it's now time to put this back on the bike. It's just a reverse of what we did the first time round in the previous video, so I won't bother showing that. However, one person did comment and say that I had the generator light and the neutral light the wrong way around, so I have changed that. It's been wrong for 30 years, so no great problem. So yeah, this is now going to go back on the bike, and hopefully everything will work when we try and start the bike for the first time. And while I realise this was quite a long, boring video, if you don't have a Ducati like mine, hopefully it will be of some use to somebody if they do have a bike like mine and they have got a problem with the idiot lights as I did. So anyway, thanks for watching and cheers.